Welcome, dear learners. Today, we are diving into an essential topic in ecology and conservation, the levels of biodiversity. When we hear biodiversity, we might think of rainforests, coral reefs, or species we know are endangered. But biodiversity is actually a complex web of life that includes the variety of genes, species, and ecosystems that make our planet both vibrant and resilient. These three levels, genetic, species, and ecosystem diversity, are interdependent, each playing a unique role in maintaining ecological balance. There are varied definitions of the term biodiversity. According to Gaston and Spicer, it is variation of life at all levels of biological organization. Biodiversity is also viewed as a measure of the relative diversity among organisms present in different ecosystems. In this definition, diversity includes variation within species and among species, and comparative diversity among ecosystems. Biodiversity may also be defined as the totality of genes, species, and ecosystems of a region. The Convention on Biological Diversity defines biodiversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources, including, among other things, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are a part. This includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. Let us now delve into the levels of biodiversity. We can look at biodiversity from two main perspectives, the organizational and the spatial. The organizational level focuses on the structural building blocks of biodiversity. Here, we look at genetic diversity within species, the variety of species themselves, and the complexity of ecosystems. These layers tell us about the different ways life can adapt and evolve. The spatial level of biodiversity, on the other hand, tells us how biodiversity varies across space. We explored this through alpha, beta, and gamma diversity, examining how life is distributed within specific areas, across different habitats, and over entire landscapes. By exploring these two perspectives, we gain a deeper understanding of how ecosystems function and why it is so crucial to protect biodiversity at every level. Let us dive in and explore these levels in more detail. We shall start with organizational levels. This categorization includes three main levels: genetic, species, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity represents the range of genetic material present within a species. This diversity stems from differences in the genes, basic units of hereditary information, found among individuals of a species. Each gene holds instructions that influence various characteristics of an organism, such as its physical structure, behavior, and response to environmental changes. These genes are passed down from one generation to the next, carrying with them the unique genetic traits of the individual. Therefore, genetic diversity is the foundation of biodiversity, as it underpins the variation observed within species and facilitates the broader diversity of life forms across ecosystems. Genetic diversity is crucial in the process of evolution. Variation among individuals in a population arises from genetic differences, which are often expressed in a range of traits, from physical attributes like color or size to physiological traits that influence an organism's adaptability to environmental stress. This variation is a prerequisite for natural selection, the mechanism through which evolution operates. When environmental pressures such as predators, climate, or resource availability favor certain traits, individuals with those traits are more likely to survive and reproduce, passing those advantageous traits on to the next generation. Over time, this can lead to a population where these traits are more common, thereby enabling adaptation to the environment. Genetic diversity also plays a key role in the process of speciation, which is the formation of new and distinct species. When populations of a single species are separated by geographic or environmental barriers, they can evolve independently, leading to different adaptations. This process, known as allopatric speciation, is fueled by genetic differences that accumulate over generations. Eventually, these populations may become so genetically distinct that they can no longer interbreed, resulting in the emergence of new species. Thus, the genetic variation within a species is the bedrock upon which biodiversity is built, driving the diversity of life forms and ensuring that ecosystems are rich in species that can perform a variety of ecological roles. Students, let us now move on to the threats to genetic diversity. Human activities pose significant threats to genetic diversity. Habitat destruction, pollution, overexploitation, and climate change are all contributing factors. Habitat destruction, such as deforestation and urban development, fragments populations, leading to smaller, isolated groups that may not have the genetic diversity required to adapt to changes. Climate change, which is altering temperatures, rainfall patterns, and other environmental factors, is putting additional pressure on populations with limited genetic diversity, as they may lack the capacity to adapt quickly enough to survive. Furthermore, practices such as selective breeding in agriculture have created crop and livestock populations with very limited genetic diversity. While this has increased food production, it has made these populations more vulnerable to diseases and pests, as they lack the genetic variation that would help them adapt. Maintaining wild relatives of domesticated species is therefore crucial, as these wild species often have high genetic diversity that could be used to improve agricultural resilience. To conserve genetic diversity, it is necessary to protect habitats and ensure that multiple populations of a species are maintained across different regions. Protected areas such as national parks, wildlife reserves, and marine sanctuaries play a critical role in preserving the habitats and genetic diversity of species. Establishing wildlife corridors between fragmented habitats can help maintain genetic flow between populations, reducing the risk of inbreeding and promoting healthier and more diverse populations. Additionally, conservationists use techniques such as seed banks and captive breeding programs to preserve genetic material. Seed banks store genetic samples of various plant species, including their wild relatives, which are crucial for future crop breeding and adaptation. Captive breeding programs, like those used for critically endangered species, aim to preserve genetic diversity by managing breeding in a controlled environment to maximize genetic variation. In the field of conservation biology, understanding and preserving genetic diversity has become essential in formulating effective strategies to mitigate the biodiversity crisis. Genetic diversity is, in a sense, the insurance policy that equips species with the tools they need to survive, adapt, and evolve over time. Now, moving on to the species diversity. Species diversity refers to the variety and abundance of different species within a particular region or ecosystem. Unlike genetic diversity, which deals with variation at the DNA level within a species, species diversity considers the diversity between different species. It is a critical component of biodiversity because it describes the richness of life forms in a community, ecosystem, or region, and is often the level at which biodiversity is most commonly understood and measured. This level of diversity is highly significant because each species in an ecosystem occupies a unique niche and contributes uniquely to the stability, productivity, and functionality of the ecosystem. In biological classification, species are the basic units used to categorize and organize life forms. A species is typically defined as a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring, sharing common characteristics and occupying similar ecological roles. As distinct units of diversity, species form the foundational blocks for understanding biodiversity at larger scales. When we discuss species diversity, we refer to two main aspects: species richness and species evenness. Species richness refers to the total number of different species present in a given area or ecosystem. It is often considered the simplest measure of biodiversity because it quantifies the sheer variety of species without considering the number of individuals per species. A forest with many different trees, birds, and insect species would be considered rich in species, even if some species are represented by only a few individuals. Species evenness refers to the relative abundance of each species in an area, or how evenly the individuals are distributed among the different species. An ecosystem where each species is represented by a similar number of individuals is said to have high species evenness. In contrast, an ecosystem dominated by one or two species with only a few individuals of the other species has low species evenness. High species evenness indicates a balanced ecosystem where no single species overwhelmingly dominates the others, contributing to greater stability and resilience. Let us briefly talk about the role of species in ecosystems. Each species within an ecosystem plays a specific role, contributing to the overall functioning and health of that ecosystem. These roles are often referred to as ecological niches and include functions such as pollination, seed dispersal, soil aeration, nutrient cycling, and prey-predator dynamics. The diversity of species within an ecosystem ensures that these functions are carried out by a range of organisms, which supports ecosystem resilience and productivity. For example, in a forest ecosystem, plants serve as primary producers that convert sunlight into energy through photosynthesis. Herbivores feed on these plants and are preyed upon by carnivores. Decomposers such as fungi and bacteria break down dead organisms, returning nutrients to the soil. Each species within these groups plays a unique role in maintaining ecological balance. When species diversity is high, it allows ecosystems to continue functioning effectively even if one species faces a decline, as other species can fulfill its role to some extent. This concept, often referred to as functional redundancy, is essential for ecosystem stability and resilience. Students, now let's talk about different threats to species diversity. Species diversity is under significant threat worldwide due to human activities including habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, overexploitation, and the introduction of invasive species. Habitat destruction such as deforestation for agriculture, urban development, and mining is one of the leading causes of species loss. When habitats are fragmented or destroyed, many species lose the resources they need to survive, leading to population declines and extinctions. Pollution, particularly in aquatic ecosystems, poses a severe threat to species diversity. Chemicals from agricultural runoff, industrial waste, and plastic pollution harm marine and freshwater species, reducing population sizes and diversity. Climate change is also driving shifts in species distributions, as temperature changes force species to migrate or adapt to new conditions. This can lead to mismatches between species and their ecosystems, disrupting ecological interactions and reducing biodiversity. Overexploitation, such as unsustainable fishing, hunting, and poaching, directly reduces species populations and can drive species to extinction. The introduction of invasive species, which often outcompete native species for resources, or prey on them is another major factor that reduces species diversity. Invasive species can alter entire ecosystems by reducing native species populations and altering habitat conditions. Dear students, conserving species diversity is essential for maintaining ecosystem health and stability. Conservation efforts often focus on protecting habitats, as preserving natural environments is one of the most effective ways to safeguard the species that live within them. Protected areas such as national parks, wildlife reserves, and marine sanctuaries help conserve species diversity by limiting human activities that could harm ecosystems. These areas provide safe habitats where species can live, reproduce, and thrive without the immediate pressures of habitat destruction or exploitation. In addition to habitat protection, conservationists use strategies such as species reintroduction, captive breeding, and restoration of degraded habitats to enhance species diversity. Reintroduction programs, for instance, involve breeding endangered species in captivity and releasing them into the wild to rebuild populations. Restoration of degraded habitats, such as reforestation or coral reef restoration, helps to recreate conditions where diverse species can flourish. Efforts to prevent the spread of invasive species are also crucial in conserving native species diversity. By controlling invasive populations and preventing new introductions, conservationists can protect native ecosystems from the competitive pressures and habitat alterations that invasives bring. Learners, let us now move on to ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity refers to the variety of ecosystems within a given region, including both the living organisms and the non-living elements that interact within each environment. Ecosystems can vary greatly in scale and complexity, ranging from vast landscapes like rainforests and coral reefs to microhabitats such as surface of a rock or a tide pool. Each ecosystem represents a unique combination of biotic and abiotic elements that interact and influence each other, creating a system where different species depend on one another and the environment for survival. Biotic components include plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and other organisms in that area. Abiotic components include sunlight, water, air, soil, minerals, and climate. These components interact in complex ways, forming webs of interdependence where each organism relies on others and on environmental factors for resources like food, shelter, and protection. The interaction within an ecosystem involves processes like nutrient cycling, energy flow, and food webs. For instance, plants capture sunlight and use it to produce energy through photosynthesis, forming the foundation of the food chain. Herbivores feed on plants, carnivores feed on herbivores, and decomposers break down dead organisms, returning nutrients to the soil. This cycle supports biodiversity as each species plays a role in maintaining ecosystem balance and stability. Ecosystem diversity is crucial for biodiversity at a broader scale. Different ecosystems support different kinds of life forms, each adapted to thrive in specific environmental conditions. The more diverse the range of ecosystems, the greater the variety of habitats available to support different species. For instance, wetlands, forests, grasslands, and coral reefs all host unique species and communities that could not survive outside their specific environments. Together, these ecosystems contribute to a planet rich in species and ecological processes that sustain life. In addition, diverse ecosystems enhance ecosystem services, which are the benefits that humans derive from nature, such as clean water, fertile soil, climate regulation, and resources like food, fuel, and medicine. A variety of ecosystems ensure that these services are not only abundant but resilient to changes or disturbances, such as natural disasters or climate shifts. For example, diverse ecosystems can buffer against extreme weather by absorbing floodwaters, stabilizing soils, and mitigating the effects of temperature changes, thereby enhancing overall ecological stability. Moving on to the threats to ecosystem diversity faces numerous threats due to human activities and environmental changes. Habitat loss, such as the clearing of forests for agriculture or urbanization, is one of the primary threats, reducing the variety of ecosystems in a region. Climate change is another significant threat as rising temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, and extreme weather events alter ecosystems, forcing species to adapt, migrate, or face extinction. Pollution, including chemical contaminants, plastic waste, and oil spills, damages ecosystems like coral reefs and freshwater bodies, further decreasing ecosystem diversity. Overexploitation of resources also degrades ecosystems, whether through overfishing, unsustainable agriculture, or logging. The introduction of invasive species disrupts native ecosystems by outcompeting, preying on, or introducing diseases to native species. These threats often lead to habitat fragmentation, where large, continuous ecosystems are divided into smaller, isolated patches, reducing ecosystem diversity and making it harder for species to survive and thrive. Dear learners, conserving ecosystem diversity is essential for protecting biodiversity at all levels, as each ecosystem provides unique habitats that support various species. Conservation strategies aim to protect and restore ecosystems through measures like establishing protected areas, restoring degraded habitats, and managing natural resources sustainably. Protected areas such as national parks and nature reserves play a vital role in conserving ecosystem diversity by preserving large sections of natural habitats and reducing human impacts. Habitat restoration projects, including reforestation, wetland restoration, and coral reef rehabilitation, help to rebuild damaged ecosystems, allowing species to return and ecosystem functions to be restored. Sustainable resource management, which includes practices like selective logging, sustainable fishing, and controlled grazing, helps reduce the pressures on ecosystems while maintaining ecosystem diversity. Moving on to spatial levels. Biodiversity can also be examined across different spatial scales: alpha, beta, and gamma diversity. The first, alpha diversity. Alpha diversity, also known as local diversity, refers to the species diversity within a specific, relatively uniform habitat or location. It is a measure of how many different species exist in a single homogeneous area like a lake, forest plot, coral reef, or grassland. By looking at alpha diversity, we can get an idea of the ecological richness within a single habitat and assess the health and stability of that ecosystem. High alpha diversity means that there is a rich variety of species coexisting in a given habitat. This can often indicate a stable and well-balanced ecosystem because a diverse mix of species can fulfill different ecological roles, which supports resilience and productivity within the ecosystem. For instance, high alpha diversity in a tropical rainforest plot means that the ecosystem supports not only a wide range of tree and plant species, but also various animals, insects, and microorganisms. Each of these species plays a unique role in nutrient cycling, pollination, seed dispersal, and other ecological processes, helping to maintain the rainforest's complex web of life. Another classic example is the coral reefs. Coral reefs are known for their exceptionally high alpha diversity. A single reef might contain hundreds of species of coral, fish, mollusks, crustaceans, and marine plants, all within a relatively small area. Each species in the reef contributes to the overall health of the system. Corals provide structure, algae and plankton provide food, and fish help with nutrient cycling. The high alpha diversity of coral reefs allows these ecosystems to thrive and resist certain types of environmental stress, like minor temperature changes or natural predation cycles. Next up, we have the beta diversity. Beta diversity explores the differences in species diversity across various habitats or ecosystems within a given region. Essentially, it measures the degree of change in species composition as one moves from one habitat to another. By examining beta diversity, ecologists can determine how unique each habitat is in terms of species it supports, revealing the overall contribution each ecosystem makes to the region's biodiversity. For example, comparing the species found in a river ecosystem to those in adjacent grassland illustrates how beta diversity functions. The river may host species such as fish, aquatic plants, and amphibians that are adapted to water-based conditions, while the neighboring grassland supports different species like grasses, herbivores, and small mammals, suited to drier, open landscapes. This variation in species composition between habitats reflects high beta diversity, showcasing each ecosystem's distinct ecological contributions and adaptations. High beta diversity indicates that a region's habitats differ significantly in their species composition, meaning each ecosystem provides unique ecological roles and resources. This diversity across habitats is essential for regional biodiversity because it highlights the need to conserve multiple ecosystems within an area. When we preserve diverse habitats, we maintain a broader range of species, ensuring ecological resilience and stability. Beta diversity therefore emphasizes the importance of a habitat mosaic, where a variety of ecosystems within a region support different species and collectively contribute to the richness of biodiversity. Lastly, we have the gamma diversity or regional diversity. It refers to the total species diversity within a larger geographic region that includes multiple habitats or ecosystems. It is the sum of alpha and beta diversity, representing the overall biodiversity across different local and regional ecosystems. Essentially, gamma diversity reflects the cumulative variety of species across a landscape, integrating both the species found within each individual habitat, which is alpha diversity, and the differences in species between various habitats, that is beta diversity. High gamma diversity is vital for ecological resilience because it includes a broader range of species and ecosystems, allowing species to migrate and adapt across different environments. This diversity offers a buffer against environmental changes as species can move between habitats in response to disturbances. For example, in a large region containing forests, grasslands, and wetlands, the total species diversity, ranging from plants to animals and microorganisms, comprises the gamma diversity of the area. If one habitat experiences a disruption, like a forest fire or drought, species from other ecosystems within the region can migrate or find suitable conditions, helping to maintain the overall biodiversity of the landscape. To understand this, consider the example of Amazon rainforests. This vast region consists of diverse ecosystems, from tropical rainforests to riverine and wetland habitats. The gamma diversity of the Amazon would include all species across these various ecosystems. If one part of the forest experiences a disturbance, the region's high gamma diversity ensures that there are enough species and habitats elsewhere in the landscape to allow for migration and adaptation, thereby sustaining biodiversity at a regional level. High gamma diversity also supports ecosystem services such as climate regulation, water purification, and pollination across the entire region, benefiting both natural environments and human populations. Students, that is all for today. I hope this session gave you a better understanding of why biodiversity is fundamental to life on Earth and highlighted the importance of conservation efforts at every level. Stay curious, keep learning.